Good day, everyone. I'm your host, Lee Judge, and welcome to today's webinar entitled How Visual Self-Service Drives Great Customer Experience, brought to you by Jakarta. Our presenter today is Dr. Natalie Petouhoff, a leading customer service and social media ROI expert. Today we will learn how to create a win-win for both the connected customer and the company through visual self-service, as well as how to meet in real time the demands of the on-the-go and connected customer. Following this session, there will be a question and answer session, so please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A window at any time. Also, as a note, to respect the privacy of our attendees, only your name will appear in the attendee window. So let's begin. Welcome, Dr. Natalie. The presentation's all yours.
Thank you very much. Touchscreen self-service, this is really kind of almost just interesting, different. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to transform that customer experience. And what I've noticed is that, especially with social kind of exposing what the customer experience is for many companies, this term customer experience has regained what I would call kind of a word of the day. And this is something that I actually wrote a paper about back in probably 20 years ago. So it's really cool for me to be here and to be able to tell you more about what this technology actually does. So my background, I spent a lot of time as a management consultant, and there I help people to not pick technology and also implement it and figure out the strategy for the technology. I find that technology without a strategy just means that you're doing the wrong things faster. I was also at Forrester and covered social media, CRM, and customer service. And then I spent some time as chief strategist in the agency world, so I really got a good understanding of what marketers are looking at and their issues today. And what's really interesting is if you are on the call on a marketer and you happen to own the website, I think you'll really appreciate what we have here. And the culmination of what I've been doing lately, I got asked to teach at the Summer Institute for Entertainment, Media, and Sports. And so that's been really fun for me to kind of crystallize my 20 years of leadership and thought leadership over the years. If you know me, then you know I've written or ghostwritten or added chapters to other people's books. So that's just kind of a bunch of them. And I was very proud of being named number 19 in Vala's top social customer service pros. So that's kind of all that's kind of fun. So on our agenda today, I want to look at the origins of self-service technology and then kind of take you on a trip of the evolution through self-service technology, and we're going to learn as we see that why things didn't really deliver on some of the promises, and then how self-service using a touchscreen is really quite different. So kind of setting the stage, I want to do a flashback to 1939 New York World's Fair, and there were about 200,000 people in attendance, and it was such a big deal that it was actually televised on radio and actually shown on television. And the theme, Building the World of Tomorrow. And what kind of struck me was this whole idea of technology and how it affects our life and how important it is not actually a new topic. It's something that we've been striving for a long time. So one of the things that was displayed at the World Fair was television. And because it was such a new thing, the company that was displaying it actually created a brochure to explain what TV was to people. And it answered all the FAQs. And it was one of the newest, hottest technologies displayed there. And the questions back then, when you look back at it, they're so basic. Things like, will a TV receiver purchased in one city? Will the programs be seen in another city? Or how many people can comfortably see a TV broadcast? So it kind of gives you as an homage to technology, and also to see how far we've really come. What was interesting too, as I looked back in the history, is along with the brochure, people who were at the fair who saw themselves on TV were given a certificate so they could prove that they actually were on TV, because this was so incredibly new. And as part of that brochure, you'll notice on the bottom, it says, we hope that you will tell your friends about what you have seen and pass on some of this information and enthusiasm to them. So what's interesting to me is word of mouth was important way back then, and it's even more important today. Average TV audience back then was about 8,000 people. The most popular show was drama, and a program production cost was 10 to 15K per week, which obviously has changed. Another important technology that actually contributed to what we're going to see today is not just the idea of television, but also the IVR. And there was a machine called the voder, and it actually synthesized human speech by breaking it down and reproducing sound and electronic capabilities. And at the fair, the voder machine was used as the voice of the robot. And this was really kind of the beginnings of speech technology and later developed into speech recognition and the use in IVRs. As we move forward in time, another key component of IVRs was the MTDF, and it allowed customers to have their calls routed without a human operator before it required a switchboard. And what you see on the right-hand side is an actual keypad. And what a lot of people don't know is that each of those tones, when you press a key, has a specific hertz frequency and a specific sound. And that's really how it connects to the computer, and also it knows where to go. So it's kind of cool to actually see like an old keypad. And in most keypads, they never publish the ABCD part. You just see the regular numbers. You know, what's cool is that back in 1967, that was the first touchscreen ever. And you see here a University of Illinois student. And this particular touchscreen technology allows students to touch the screen to answer questions. So nearly 30 years after the voder, we first started to see touchscreens. This one really sent me back in time. While TV shows like Star Trek Next Generation were kind of showcasing the idea of visual technology, alongside that came Simon the Personal Communicator, which was touchscreen, and then Apple's Newton PDA, which actually required a stylus. Well, what's interesting now is that touchscreens are now everywhere. They're in your home, they're a retail cashier, sometimes food restaurants, menus have them. And what was interesting as technology continued to evolve, so we went from an automated attendant, and I know some of you out there listening actually lived through this evolution, voice response units, interactive voice response. And what happened was, along with all of that, as businesses were really trying to serve the customer, it ended up with really long IVR scripts and prompts. And while that was a good idea, it actually had kind of some things that people didn't appreciate. So as I was looking through all this, I thought, why not have something that customer service could use? Because the idea here is that customers get really frustrated with a push button phone IVR, and you've all been there. If we were in a room together, I would ask how many of you are customers, and everyone would raise their hand, because we're all customers. And we know that traditional IVR requires a customer to listen and remember the phone tree, and that isn't always easy. What's interesting, too, is I looked up some studies, and I found an IBM self-service study, and in 2007, the study said that 69% of the people experienced technical difficulties with self-service. In 2011, not much has changed. In fact, 83% felt that IVR systems either provided no benefit or only a cost savings to the company, and 67% still preferred a live agent. And as all of you in the contact center world, you know that agent-assisted service is the most expensive option. And so the idea here, the promise, was that self-service was going to reduce our costs. And here's some of the things that we thought were going to happen. User-friendly practical channel, lower agent-assisted call volumes, improve call center efficiency and capacity, free up the agents who are taking calls so they can handle those more complicated cases. We also were looking at things like lowering average handle time, minimizing hold time, more accurate routing, and then, of course, to reduce costs, because you're going to downsize your telephony, your training costs, and agent frustration. And it's very expensive to replace agents. I was just recently at a call center where they had 51% attrition, which I was kind of surprised to see that in this day and age, but it still happens. And part of that, when I talked to customer service agents, they told me that part of that is the technology that they have to use. Sometimes it's cumbersome, it's not easy, customer gets frustrated, they can't get to the right answer. So what's interesting is even though, you know, we've kind of done an homage to technology overall, and we flash forward to what we're doing today, it's still not quite what we wanted. Another thing to consider are demographics of your customer base. So this is a little chart here, and what you can see is the largest group of customers are really Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. And one of the things that boomers tend to want to pick up the phone with our device. The next generation really is more mobile-oriented. And what you can see is that they are the largest group of customers, and they are predicted to be the most wealthy, because not only will they have their own money, but they'll also inherit some of the boomers' money, at least some of us who have a little bit of a 401k left. What's interesting here is that while most people still do use a phone, and I'm not in any way suggesting the phone is going to go away, but people are starting to migrate to other channels. And I think one of the reasons that people still use a phone is that other service channels really don't provide the information that they need, and so they may need improvements. And what you can see here, though, is that Gen X, Y, and Z are really into using text and social. So you want to take that into consideration because it can be really, really important to be able to do that. And then generational differences are driving new preferences. I was at my brother's house, and his 3-year-old was touching the TV screen and kind of swiping it like you would an iPad. And he was like, why isn't the screen moving? So what's interesting is different generations grew up on different kinds of technologies. And what you really want to be able to do is you want to be able to deliver on any channel easily and on any device. And that's something we're going to see today. So kind of to recap why it couldn't deliver, self-service, why it couldn't deliver on the promise. Customers really hate remembering lengthy call menus, and it's hard to remember which button works or which button said exactly what they thought they wanted. Sometimes people don't bother listening to the IVR, and they just figure out how to zero out to an agent. And then sometimes if you press the wrong combination or try to go backwards, the system can actually hang up on you. And so what you end up with is customers who are very, very frustrated. Now, I know, having been a customer, and you know, I know that there are some IVRs that do work well, and a lot of times when that happens, it's because the company has actually validated the scripting and the prompts, and they've actually asked customers, does this work for you? So sometimes we, even though we're implementing technology, we forget to ask the customers about their experience. And when the experience is poor, then oftentimes the IVR didn't lower the costs, the agent-assisted costs. And since agents' salaries are one of the biggest costs, self-service did fail to deliver on the promise. And if you have a CFO that you have to stand up in front of and ask for budget, you probably made some promises because we all thought the technology would be able to do what we thought it could do. So you want to be able to, this time, if you're looking to change something or looking to really change the customer journey, big questions are, what is the best IVR strategy and technology? What's going to be simple to use, simple to implement, user-friendly, and what we'd love to see, those of us in customer service, is to actually see some of these other channels become the preferred channel But in order to do that, you really have to make the experience great. And that, as I said, has not been easy. And then how do you do this without doing a big rip and replace of the current IVR? Because budgets are tight and people are not able to do rip and replace. One, because it costs a lot, and two, because it's very time consuming. So you almost have to have consistent instances running up at the same time. So the big question, the big drum roll here is, how are we going to go from push button IVR, and what's the next wave? What's the newest technology? So what if customers could see the prompts that are on their phone? They didn't have to try to remember what each prompt said, and if they didn't have to move the phone from their ear as they're listening to what all the prompts are, and then to look at the keypad and try to recall which number to push. I don't know about you, but I know myself as a customer, that would make my customer satisfaction go up, among other things. So this is kind of a really important thing. And I know a lot of people know me for social media, and kind of my overall idea about how to turn the contact center into a profit center is to look at contact centers like a canary in the coal mine. What's not working in a company is often posted in social media. So most everything a business needs to know, what's working, what's not working in terms of product or service, and what would be better can be seen by looking at customer conversations. I mean, you can see that in text mining, you can see that in social networks, but it's been very difficult to see how to get senior management to understand what we all know is so. So what happens is, and I have a lot of customers saying, well, Dr. Nat, we don't think our customers are on social media, we don't really care. Well, what's happening is that customers are posting on review sites like Yelp and Amazon, sometimes in Facebook or Twitter, and forums and communities, and you want to think about those posts kind of like cave paintings. They last permanently for millions of years. So let's say that you have a customer and you have a bad review, and a bunch of other people piled on and said, yeah, I had the same experience. You want to start to look at what people are saying, and most often people are disappointed in the product and disappointed in service. So it's really important to start to look at how well are we just doing traditional customer service? How well is the phone service working? How well is self-service on the web working? And if you really start to analyze what's being said, oftentimes those are the things that get posted. And as we saw back in 1939 with the television example, word of mouth was important then, and it's even more important now because in a nanosecond, customers can share their experience. It can be posted, and I myself, when I'm in a new city, I'll look at Yelp, or if I'm going to buy something, I look at Amazon reviews, and I do take into consideration what people say, even people I don't even know. So what may be happening to your company without really knowing it is that customers are actually leaving before they even start to engage with you. So you just want to kind of take a look at social media and think about it almost like a huge, giant focus group, and it's going to tell you what's working, what's not working, what would be better at. And I'm guessing for almost all companies, I've never seen it not be so, it's the traditional customer service channels that are not working. Okay, so ta-da, thank you for bearing with me as I went to that homage. And I think it's important because it sets the stage for what we're going to talk about today for the rest of this time together. It's the traditional IVR actually becomes the visual. So let's take a look at what that means. It offers a better customer experience with a touch screen, so customers can see the prompts on their phone. They don't need to remember what the prompts or what the voice said. They don't have to move the phone from their ear. They just need to look at the screen, and what you can see here is that you can see, here's what would typically be the IVR menu, which someone would listen to. It's actually a visual representation of reservations, billing, travel insurance, and talking to an operator. So how a visual IVR works is that the customer would see this first piece that they're interested in, right, and it's about their reservation, and then they would push that, and then they would push, I want to change my reservation. So now you can see that physically people can see the IVR tree, and all they have to do is touch the screen of the mobile phone, and then it gets them to where they want. What's also really cool about this technology is that it supports alphanumeric data. So in this case, the customer wanted to enter in their confirmation number so that the right information could be looked up and that reservation could be found. And that person could change their flight or do whatever they needed to do. But of course, we always want to give customers the option to talk to a customer service agent. And what's interesting about the system is that all that customer interaction data is preserved, so the customer doesn't have to repeat what they, their path or what they've experienced or what they were doing. And that's really part of what reduces that agent handle time, because all that information is actually delivered to the agent desktop. So the same Visual IVR on your phone also works on the website. So if you own the website, or perhaps maybe marketing or e-commerce owns it, but you still end up taking the calls, you may be really interested to see how this works. So you see at the top of the page, it's a little bit grayed out, it says contact us. And so someone would click that, and then the customer would read the menu touches. And what they would do is they would be able to touch the computer screen, and they would choose change a reservation. And then they would pick international flight. So you can see now how the IVR, what used to be the voice IVR menu, is now a visual menu. And that's really what we're looking at, is how do we take those long IVR prompt menus and turn them into something visual. And then now you can see that the person's going to select their platinum membership. And so this becomes really, really easy and kind of fun for the customer. Here's a fun statistic. When someone scans a smart screen and they see a visual IVR, it takes maybe 6 seconds, but listening to a list of instructions could take as long as 26 seconds, and depending on how long your IVR is, depending on how difficult the phone tree is, it can take actually quite a long time. And then a lot of times customers still aren't sure if they're pushing the right button, so then they end up just trying to figure out how to get to an agent, which defeats the whole point of self-service. Now, I know a lot of you that are out there listening are saying, do I need to rip and replace my IVR technology? Because Dr. Nat, if that's so, I can't do it, right? And so what's interesting about the technology is they actually thought about it, and they allow you to take your current technology and evolve that interface. So what the technology does is it takes that current IVR and it interprets the IVR and renders a visual representation, and it has additional features that you may not have had in your traditional IVR, and it does so for your website as well as your mobile devices. What's also really cool is that changes within one channel are immediately duplicated to all presences, so you're not having to go to change the voice script, mobile script, and the website script to make sure everything's working. They're automatically updated. Another thing that's really key is if you have a busy call center, and I don't know anybody who doesn't, when you're switching technologies and you have to go through a lengthy deployment schedule, then you have to have redundant systems running. It can be kind of a pain. And so what's interesting about this technology is that it deploys in days, not months. Let's take a look at how it looks on a website. So normally someone would come to what we would call contact us, right? And they might be able to find the 1-800 number if it's not hidden. I know a lot of companies did that, and then now there are websites to say, if you can't find the IVR for these companies, we'll tell you what the phone tree path is. And then let's look, you could actually fill out an email form and then wait for your answer to come back. You could look at commonly asked questions or FAQs, or you could look at static links. And oftentimes, while those are good self-service choices, they still don't deliver on what customers are looking for, and I really believe that's part of why call volume is still as high as it is. So let's take a look at what if you had a Visual IVR website button. So the customer would click on that to get started, and then the customer would take a look at the visual menu, and they see delayed baggages, damaged baggages, lost personal items, all the things that people might be interested in. And basically they're going to get an answer on the spot. So they're going to pick damaged baggages. And then the next question is, have you reported it to a representative? If yes, then you would click that. And what ends up happening now is your website is an interactive visual touchscreen with easy-to-read options. You're not having to listen and try to figure out what push button you're supposed to use. The customer can easily see the choices and touch the screen to get what they need. So in this case, someone might look at, this is for travel, they might look at their existing or future travel reservations. Now what's really interesting is that the answer to whatever that question can be presented within the website window. But what I also like about this is that immediately the option to call someone is available, and also the option to chat is also available. So sometimes customers still really need to talk to an agent, and you want to be able to offer that, but offer it seamlessly. So with respect to chat, if they click the chat button, the chat box would open, and then the customer can really start to talk to the chat agent. And so what you see here is all those interactions that the customer's already done, the agent gets to see all that. And so they're not starting from scratch. The customer experience is actually across all channels, the information and the experience is preserved. And that way, that helps the customer get their specific questions answered very quickly. And I've had a couple people in the last 6 months to a year that I talk at customer service conferences asking me, Dr. Nat, how do I integrate chat onto my website? Well, what's interesting about this is if you haven't done it yet, the technology comes with this ability not only to integrate chat, but it also gives you the ability to install your chat that works part of a whole system. So now you don't have to worry about how you're going to go about integrating chat. Another thing is that a customer can navigate backwards easily, and that oftentimes can be very difficult on a voice IVR because the customer has to listen to the whole menu. Sometimes going backwards is impossible, and I've actually experienced having IVRs actually hang up on me when I tried to go backwards. So there's a back. So what you see on a website is a back button. So the key here is what's on your website is exactly the same prompts and information and menus on your mobile devices. The other thing that I have been getting questions about is, Dr. Nat, how do we create a mobile app? We have to go to IT. Do we hire developers? How do we make it? How do we make it actually work with all the other technology that we have? And so if you were to go down this path, not only do you not have to develop your own mobile app, but now it's already integrated into your website and into phone and other channels. Let's say that you wanted to get your client or customer started. You can get your customer started by sending them a text so that they can begin this IVR process. So you'd send them a text. They'd click on that little Here button, and then the visual menu would open up. And as you can see now they'd be on their path of getting themselves help for billing and payments. Some people have said, well, Dr. Nat, that all sounds really, really interesting, but what if my customers don't have smartphones? What if I'm serving the demographic that hasn't started to go down, the new smartphones? Well, what's interesting is that this Visual IVR technology has anticipated that issue, and it can support non-feature-rich phones through USSD, and that type of protocol is supported across most GSM carriers. And so this provides an alternative mechanism for rendering a visual IVR interface to customers who are not yet on smartphones. I saw a statistic lately that the increase in smartphones, I think, has surpassed people buying actual computers. So I think we're here to say it's really important for customer service to be able to jump on the mobile capabilities. And I've been seeing a lot of articles on showrooming, which is where a customer will go into a physical brick-and-mortar store, look up a product while they're standing there looking at it in the store, and look at the price and maybe have questions, but they don't want to bother to call the 1-800 number. And so as a result, they may actually, showrooming is the idea that you may be physically standing in someone's retail store, but they're actually going on the web and ordering it from somewhere else. So if you were able to provide quick mobile service that was easy to follow, that might reduce some of that showrooming and some of the sales. So the business case, of course, those of you who know me very well, I really care about ROI in the business case. So you want to start to see how you're decreasing the number of pounds or zero out to agent-assisted calls, and what the cost of that is. You really want to know more about that customer and why they're calling if they do opt to talk to an agent, and if the agent has all that content and context delivered to the agent desktop, then that's going to decrease the agent handle time. It's going to increase first contact resolution, which is a really key component. And it's going to eliminate the customer having to repeat everything that they've done, the detail of their story, when they actually do connect to that agent. And it also provides a really good, consistent experience, regardless of which channel the customer chooses. And by the way, we have an upcoming white paper that you guys will all get as part of what we're doing here, and it has a lot of this stuff in detail. So if you want more detail, there's an upcoming white paper that I read. So the ROI is really important, and what I want you to pay attention to is on the lower left, we have cumulative 3-year savings, and where that savings came from in this particular case. And if you want to be able to see your own numbers, I just put some numbers into the input area, which is the top left, where you see kind of the yellow gold numbers. And you want to put your information in there, so call volumes, minutes per call, agent transfers. And so what you can see on the lower right-hand side is that this particular customer saw a 23% reduction in call volume, 4% reduction in call transfers, and 73% saw minutes deflected. So if you want to play around with the IVR, you can see the link there below. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, does my IVR measure up? What do my customers think about it? It's really important whenever you're doing anything in a customer-facing department to really be customer-centric, and you can't know that unless you're talking to your customers and getting feedback. So I see feedback as like golden nuggets, and it's wonderful information, even though sometimes it hurts. So here's some symptoms. If your zero out rate is greater than 7%, you need to really take a look at your IVR. If there's a high percentage of call transfers within the contact center, if the website is listed on sites that show customers how to reach an agent, and then grumpy customers. Oftentimes a customer who uses a traditional IVR still reaches out to the agent, but they become so frustrated, they actually become kind of mean and they yell at the agent, and that's part of what agents get frustrated with, is people being upset with them. And when I interviewed a lot of them, they said, you know, Dr. Nat, we come to work every day and we really try to do a good job, but when the technology doesn't work, then it becomes really difficult to offer that experience that I would want as a customer, and I know my customers would want. And so I think that's part of why we're still seeing very high agent attrition, because there's a lot of stress on these agents. And you guys all get the PowerPoint, so if you don't have to copy down all the questions, but this is kind of a good list of figuring out whether your IVR really is customer-centric and some questions that you might want to ask your customers. So if you do have an online community or a Facebook page, you might want to ask these questions, but also be prepared to hear that it doesn't work for them. That's the thing about social media, is it really requires a lot of courage and boldness, and the idea that if you ask questions, people are going to answer them, and you need to be there and you need to interact with them. So if customers feel they're forced to listen to a long introductory prompt, if the menus are long, they have a difficult time deciphering or remembering which option to choose. Also, if the navigation path, is it clear? Is it easy for them to choose the right option, to get to the right answer, or even to go backwards in the menu? Does the IVR system ever hang up on them? Or does it go down a path that's a dead end that they can't get out of? And when picking an IVR menu option, does the agent get all of the information about the customer's journey and delivered it to the agent desktop? And I talk to so many people and I ask them, do you have CTI? And some of them say yes without really knowing that there's different levels of CTI. So sometimes it's just the customer's information that gets transferred, but what the agent doesn't see is that whole customer journey and what they've been doing. So really, truly, CTI not only at the highest level, not only delivers who that customer is, some of their customer history, but it also delivers their whole customer interaction to the agent. So the agent can see, oh, I see you are on our website, and they can take it from there. And then the last thing is when using your IVR, especially on mobile devices, do customers become frustrated and just zero out, or is it easy for them to navigate the IVR phone tree menu? And so when you want to really look at the idea of your IVR, you may not have actually tested it for customers, or if you did test it, it's very difficult to change it. And so what I'm talking about here is the ability to very easily and very quickly be able to take that IVR and turn it into a great customer experience and also dollar savings for the company. And it's very rare that I see technology that not only helps the customer and really provides an amazing customer experience, but it also saves the company money and it provides a better experience for the customers, so there's less posting on social media about pound fail, how this company doesn't get me or provides terrible service. So that's really my portion for today. I want to thank you for tuning in, especially if you're on the West Coast. It's very early. I hope you have a really good holiday week. And now I'd like to open up to questions.
Well, first I want to say thank you, Dr. Natalie, for your valuable insights on visual self-service. Due to the high participation in the webinar, we're going to answer a few questions and then let you get back to your busy days. And we'll answer the rest of the questions following the event via email. I see several questions are very technical, so we'll have our product folks from Jakarta here respond to you individually with those questions. So we have a few questions already in the Q&A window, Dr. Natalie. If you could look at those and choose a couple to answer before we wrap things up.
Yes. So someone asked if I could talk to your executive, and that's one of my favorite things to do, is that what I find is that if you're inside a company, you could be saying, you know what, we really need, and I'm just using this as an example, more water fountains. And I would be sitting there and people would go, oh, no, Dr. Nat, we don't need more water fountains. That's not true. And then you have a consultant come in and their conclusion is the same. We need more water fountains. And then everybody goes, oh, my gosh, did you hear what the consultant said? We need more water fountains. We need to get on this. So one of the things that I found is that if you're inside a company, sometimes it's very difficult to create change, and sometimes you need an external person to be able to help you with that kind of explanation or justification. There's a couple of questions on mobile assistance, and some of the more technical questions, of course, we're going to make sure that Jakarta follows up with you. But from what I know, it's very easy to provide mobile service to customers, and it's very easy because of the way the technology is set up, that it renders itself in all channels. Let's see. I think
one of the questions around the channels, someone asked about languages, and actually the Visual IVR is based on, in most cases, a company's existing VXML or their existing IVR technology. So the language really isn't an issue because it follows the existing language you already have your IVR programmed at. So that's to answer one of the questions.
Another person asked about if you have a mobile, or you want to provide mobile service, but someone's in a very noisy environment. Oftentimes that could be in an airport, could be in a store. Having a visual IVR really helps. Is it speech recognition? Because the speech recognition technology may be picking up the background, and oftentimes that's why it doesn't work. And the funny thing is that when the speech recognition doesn't work, people scream into the phone thinking that that's going to help the IVR hear it better. And actually, when you scream into a phone, it actually makes it more difficult for the speech recognition to work. So yes, this is in particular a very good mobile experience in an area where there's a noisy environment, or let's say you're sitting in a meeting and you need to get to an answer and you can't talk. It is very, very important. Another person asked, can the customer escalate to chat or voice or video interaction? Yes, and I was trying to anticipate everybody's questions with the presentation. So yes, we actually showed how there's like a click to call or a click to chat. So, and I really think that's important because sometimes people do want to talk to an agent, and what you don't want to do is pretend like self-service is the end-all and be-all. You really want to make sure that you can still get people to an agent. But you're going to have less people clicking and talking to an agent if the experience in self-service is actually useful and people can get the things that they need.
Okay, great. Well, our time is about up here. So once again, I want to thank you, Dr. Natalie, for joining us today. It's been very informational. And that concludes our webinar today on how visual self-service drives great customer experience. Thanks again, Dr. Natalie. It was an honor to have you. If there are any questions that we were unable to answer today, please email me directly, or we will send out a link also for the slides for the webinar. We hope you gain valuable insight into visual self-service and how easily it can be to utilize it to enhance your organization's customer service. A replay of the event will be available soon on Jakarta.com. If you'd like a copy of the slide decks, please email me directly at ljudge@Jakarta.com. That's LJUDGE@Jakarta.com. Once again, thank you for attending today, and please visit us again at Jakarta.com. Have a wonderful day.